The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. An alleged military base has apparently been set up in Belarus following Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin's arrival in the country earlier this week. Satellite images show rows of long structures in the village of Tsel in a field which had appeared empty 2 weeks before. Recall that Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko invited Wagner to set up operations in his country as part of a deal that ended the Russian military contractor's mutiny on June 24. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg visits Kiev to draw attention to environmental damage caused by the war in Ukraine. This comes after the hydroelectric Kakhovka Dam collapsed earlier this month, unleashing floods across southern Ukraine and Russian-occupied areas of the Kherson region. During her speech, Thunberg condemned the impact of war on the environment and criticized the world's response to the blast. Ukraine is currently investigating the dam blast as a war crime and possible criminal environmental destruction or ecocide. Authorities estimate the resulting damage at around 1.2 billion euros.
Ecocide and environmental destruction is a form of warfare, as Ukrainians by this point know all too well, and so does Russia. And that's why they are deliberately targeting the environment and people's livelihoods and homes. This is, after all, a matter of people. It is about Ukrainians suffering from this war. It is also of everyone else suffering from the consequences. For example, the millions of people dependent on food grown in Ukraine.
Major French cities saw a third night of riots as President Emmanuel Macron fights to contain unrest triggered by a police shooting a teenager at a traffic stop. Protesters set several cars on fire in memory of the teenager and scrawled "Vengeance for Nahel" across buildings and bus shelters. Police, on the other hand, fired tear gas and scuffled with marchers. 40,000 police officers were deployed around France, but there were few signs that government appeals would be able to quell public ire. According to the local prosecutor, the officer involved had been put under formal investigation for voluntary homicide. The policeman would also be held in prison for preventive detention. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. The U.S. Supreme Court strikes down race-conscious student admissions at Harvard University and the University of Carolina. This after U.S. President Joe Biden proposed a new standard for admissions officials to consider challenges applicants face, such as discrimination. The affirmative action ruling is a setback to affirmative action policies, often used to increase the number of underrepresented minority groups on campuses. It is also the latest in a string of setbacks on issues that were once considered settled, such as abortion rights. Biden said he strongly disagreed with the court's decision, saying that it can't be the last word on the matter.
I also believe that while talent, creativity, and hard work are everywhere across this country, not equal opportunity. It is not everywhere across this country. We cannot let this decision be the last word. I want to emphasize, we cannot let this decision be the last word. We should never allow the country to walk away from the dream upon which it was founded. That opportunity is for everyone, not just a few. We need a new path forward, a path consistent with a law that protects diversity and expands opportunity.
The alleged Chinese spy balloon that flew over the U.S. earlier this year did not collect information. The finding was confirmed by U.S. Pentagon spokesperson Brigadier General Pat Ryder. Recall that the balloon spent a week flying over the airspace of U.S. and Canada in February. It was eventually shot down by the U.S. military upon the order of President Joe Biden. China has maintained that the balloon was only a civilian airship for research purposes. Virgin Galactic has successfully flown its first paying customers to the edge of space. Inside the spaceplane's cabin were two Italian Air Force officers and an aerospace engineer from the National Research Council. The three-man crew from Italy soared more than 50 miles above the New Mexico desert aboard the Virgin Galactic rocket on Thursday. About 75 minutes after leaving the ground, the spaceplane safely glided back to its starting point on a runway at Spaceport America. The flight came almost 2 years after Virgin Galactic founder Richard Branson flew to space in a test flight, ushering in a new era of space tourism. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. Coming right up is Agenda at 8 a.m. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.